Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Don FALK. I'm Executive Director of TNDC, Tenderloin Neighborhood Development Corporation. And it is, I can't even tell you, my distinct pleasure to be able to greet you and welcome you to the grand opening of Cullen Community. As I was walking in here, someone said, "This is over the top, just like Kelly." So while TNDC's name may be on the title, this is really not owned by TNDC. This is a community asset, and TNDC, we are merely the stewards of it. I want to take the opportunity to thank some of the people and the institutions who came together to bring this project to fruition. And first and foremost, Leader Nancy Pelosi, because it was stimulus funds that helped build Cullen Community. Don't let anybody tell you that the stimulus bill didn't provide jobs, because hundreds of construction jobs and dozens of permanent jobs came about because of the stimulus funds in this project. This would not have happened without ARA, and we really want to express our gratitude to our great leader. Equally important, the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee administered the funds and solved 100 problems along the way. And if its great leader, Bill Paveo, is here, is Bill here? Stand up, Bill, please. Bill Paveo is a great public servant. A number of other groups really were critical to the $95 million that we needed to generate in order to buy and renovate this building. City Community Capital provided the construction financing. The state of California showed up through the Department of Housing and Community Development, the Mental Health Services Division, and especially the California Housing Finance Agency. The Federal Home Loan Bank, through its affordable housing program, administered and brought to us by Silicon Valley Bank. And the Corporation for Supportive Housing was a really special supporter, and I want to recognize Jonathan Hunter. Jonathan, stand up. So the Corporation for Supportive Housing is a recipient of a National Social Innovation Fund grant, and they put that money out nationwide, and Cullen Community was one of 4 projects across the country to be awarded funding through the Social Innovation Fund. So thank you, Jonathan. We have a very special partner. The Mayor's Office of Housing is a part of every single project that TNDC undertakes. And in this case, the San Francisco Department of Public Health is a key part of the project. They will be providing funding for the next 15 years and beyond. And I wonder if its leader, Barbara Garcia, is here. Is Barbara here? Thank you, Barbara. And I have just one very special call out, and anyone involved in the project knows who this is for. Mark Trotz, where are you? I think it was 7 years ago that Mark conceived this vision, and it really was a vision. And he offered leadership for most of the last 7 years, solving not hundreds, thousands of problems in order to lead the way for us to build this. So thank you, Mark. This community asset, Cullen Community, exemplifies 3 important ideas. It represents the Tenderloin's great history. It was built in 1910, and we have restored it to its initial grandeur. It helps make explicit the link between health and homelessness. And it shows that housing very low-income people is not merely humane and dignified. It's smart public policy. It is less expensive to keep people housed than to allow them to remain homeless. This is one social problem we actually know how to solve, and all it requires is the will to do it. Supportive housing works. And with that, it is my pleasure. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of San Francisco, Ed Lee.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Well, let me just add my brief congratulations to TNDC, to Don FALK and his wonderful leadership, and just a few words of praise for everybody who has worked so hard to make this 172-unit project come to conclusion, to open up this incredible center. Look at what we're in. We're in a fantastic auditorium. You got the atrium working out there. You got a gymnasium that has been restored. You got the central YMCA and its physical structure repurposed, and all for what purpose? You know, when I became mayor 2 years ago, I asked myself a question, the same question that I know Brother Cullen Community asked when he first stepped in to provide his leadership in this community, something I know Don and so many Mark Trotz and Bevan Duffy and so many others who've worked together, and Barbara Garcia and others. How do we bring hope to this city? How do you make sure that we're not just doing the ropes, that we're not building the bricks and mortars, but you're really concentrating on people's lives and the quality of life that they have? And this particular project represents that. And it began so well with the spirit and the leadership of Leader Pelosi when she tapped the R monies for us and helped really navigate that wonderful initial amount of monies. And look what it did. It brought so many other financial institutions and different state agencies together to figure it out. It brought the housing advocates with the homeless advocates, with the health advocates together to say that we can bring hope to this community and make sure this project represented all of that. This is what Brother Kelly Cullen was all about. You know, he is to me the almost the St. Francis of the Tenderloin, because it was his spirit that had to be honored with this project. And so we had to up everybody's participation and make sure this was done right and done well. And this is the way we think of quality lives for housing people who don't have the alternatives. And also, not only housing them, but providing them with the services they need to live a dignified life. Because it's never been about the brick and mortars. In this city, it's really about living with dignity. This is what San Francisco is all about. And I don't care if I'm in Cork, Ireland, or Paris, France, or back home here in San Francisco. It is about the quality of life that we want to live. It is about the greatness of this city and what we represent. This project does it all. And it does it with so many partners who have come together to make it happen and to play their role in a concerted effort to say 172 people's lives are about to get the kind of experience that many of us who came to San Francisco want. This quality of life. Living in San Francisco can be incredibly challenging for many, many people. And the people who are going to live here are the very people that we probably know and have seen on the corners of the Tenderloin, Central Market, on Polk Street, all the different neighborhoods we've touched. We know their names. We know that they didn't want to just go to another SRO or be treated from shelter to shelter. They wanted something that would dignify the rest of their lives and get the support that they need. And the health support here, the gymnasium, the beautiness of this building is all reflected in this incredible goal that we have, that we can house our homeless in the most dignified way. And I think a lot about this project as I go through and talk about Hope SF, talk about the director of Hope talked about where people's lives can be changed and transformative throughout this whole city, whether they're living in Sunnydale or Viz Valley or Ventura Hill or West Side Courts, and say, I want to bring you down here to the Cullen Community and let you see that this is where we put all of our values together and take care of people. And it is taking care of people that we are all about here in the center. It is going to be the model, the grand model, I think, for years and years to come, Don, that will showcase this to everybody, saying, you don't have to just build SROs or build shelters. You can build quality housing with services that people need so that they can transform their lives and they can see themselves as full citizens of San Francisco. This is what it's all about, and I will continue thanking Leader Pelosi for this. And I know she's battling more battles back in Washington, D.C., and she's there at the Supreme Court today, as many of our attention is as well, because it's time to change. And it's time that this country ends discrimination. And we're ending it right here as well. Everything that we do here is also saying we take away barriers that have prevented us from quality living for our homeless, and we do it right here in the middle of Tenderloin. And there's more to come. This is just another great, wonderful example. We'll take people here. But I know everyone who's touched this, from housing advocates to the developers, to the architects who have been inside here working their magic, to the contractors whose jobs were tapped at the beginning of the ARA funds to say, look, we're gonna get this project done as an example of how we use recovery funds in the nation to really change lives. To the very people here today celebrating the lives that have moved in, that will be transformative. So I want to thank everybody for their wonderful contributions, for the coordination of this. Let's continue doing this in the great city of San Francisco. How about it? For the Tenderloin? You can see this all through Central Market, through Soma. Supervisor Jane Kim is going to continue her leadership on this as well. Let's continue celebrating this. There's more to come in the great city of San Francisco. Thank you very much.
Before I introduce the next speaker, just for fun, how many people here were members of this Y? Raise your hands. Yeah, lots of people. This building has been a part of the fabric of San Francisco for 100 years. Willie Brown stayed here when he first moved to San Francisco. I once saw Senator Tom Amiano in the locker room. And Brother Kelly had one of his first offices here at the Y. Please welcome to the stage one of the first residents of Cullen Community, Sean Williams.
Good morning, everybody. Wow. This is amazing, because I really didn't even expect all of this myself. I'd just like to say welcome. I was like one of the first ones that moved in here a few months back, and born and raised here in San Francisco. I really didn't know one figure that I would be able to have a place of my own, especially with the kind of background that I have. I mean, I've been a drug addict and an alcoholic. I've been going in and out of jail through the years. I've been homeless ever since 1999. And then, like in 2010, I was diagnosed with 2 different types of illnesses. One that could kill me quicker than the other. And then in 2011, I had got out of jail, and I just try to figure out which way I wanted my life to be going. So I ended up being in a transitional hotel. And that kind of like changed everything just a little bit for me because I was going through a lot then. Because I got tired of being homeless. And things started to turn around also. But it all wasn't a bed of roses because I had to take good times with the bad times. I done had some heartaches while I was there. And then I ended up coming to Kelly Colors, and it transformed everything for me. I mean, the people that's here from the front desk person all the way up to the nurses, the social workers, everybody here, they've been very helpful and supportive for everything I been doing here. And I'm just, I'm just so grateful that I have this opportunity to finally have a place that I can really hang my hat. You know, because at 47 right now, going on 48, I really never had a place to call my own. And this is my first real place that I can really say that it's mine. And every time I wake up in the middle of the night, and I still do it now, and I look around the place, and I just think back to where I was, and where I've been, and also where I'm at today, and it still blows me away because I didn't think I would have this kind of opportunity. Right now, I'd like to thank the people that made this move possible for me, my case managers, Christian and Isaiah, Karina, and Ray. If it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be, because they was there when I needed them. And the workers here, I mean, they are dynamite. I mean, for real, I got to lie. Because when I feel down, or even if I just need a smile, you know, I can always see the person at the front desk for that, you know, and if I need any kind of support in anything, you know, with my meds or anything that I need, they're here for me, you know, with no questions asked. So it's very rare that you can come to a place where people really genuinely care about you. And I can say, Kelly Colors, thank you. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage our supervisor, Jane Kim.
Good morning. It's hard to follow up after Sean and the mayor. About a year ago, for the first time actually, the mayor appointed me as acting mayor when he went on a trip. And my office and I spent a long time thinking about how I would spend those 3 days as acting mayor of San Francisco. And they decided, on my behalf, that I would spend a night in our shelter. And so I went through our lottery process throughout the day, and I ended up at Next Door Shelter that evening. And I knew that night was going to be hard for me, for many reasons. But it wasn't hard for the reason that I thought it would be. I knew that it would be sad that I would be seeing people at rock bottom, at a place where they needed to find shelter for the night because so many of the support systems that they needed weren't in place for them. And what I experienced that night was difficult for a different set of reasons. And it was because I experienced such love and compassion and generosity that night from so many of the women and men that were staying in that shelter that had never seen me before. And people reached out to me all evening, asking me if I needed help, if I knew where to get my food, if I knew where to get this, if I knew which organizations served our folks the best and where I should go the next morning. And I was truly touched to meet so many people that when they had the least wanted to offer me the most. I get a lot of emails about what I do to combat homelessness here in San Francisco. It's probably one of the top emails that I get in our office. And I say it is funding organizations like TNDC. It is about supporting the mayor when he is willing to cut through a lot of the red tape and back and forth discussions between developers and affordable housing advocates to put Prop C on the ballot last November. These are the ways that we work to combat homelessness. And it's also about supporting health centers like Tom Waddell, which is an incredible institution here in this neighborhood. But what I can say when we're here at these grand openings, actually Doug Shoemaker called this the month of the Tenderloin a couple of weeks ago. We did the ribbon cutting for the Arlington Hotel, another hotel that opened around the same time in 1908 here in the city of San Francisco, rehabbed all of the units in that building as well. One of the reasons why I'm so honored to represent this district and I'm so proud is that I really believe we have the best residents and the best advocates, service providers, and organizers. This is an amazing community and neighborhood to be a part of. And there's so much that we need to work on, but there's so much that's happened over the last 30 years that has allowed for projects like this to happen today. And I'm honored to be a part of that legacy and hope to continue to fight for more affordable housing and more services for folks to help them be part of a stable and loving community and neighborhood. Thank you.
One of the people who's been a part of this project since the day TNDC hired her, Senior Project Manager Mara BLITZER.
This is fun. One of the photographs of the historic YMCA that we had up in the construction office during construction was from the 1920s. This room packed to the gills of gentlemen in top hats, and it's kind of neat to see it look like this again today. So I'm really pleased to have a few minutes here today to thank many of you in this room, and some of us who are able to join us today, who helped develop Cullen Community. There are hundreds, literally hundreds, we figured 400 or 500 people who joined us in this effort, and I don't think that TNDC could have asked for any better partners. Specifically, I want to thank the team from FALK and Partners Architects. Please raise your hand. I know lots of you are here. So many wonderful people at FALK and Partners. And also our historic preservation architects, math architects, Frederick, Richira, and JC. Please raise your hands too. I know you're here. Our amazing contractor, Cahill, and construction manager, Gilbert Chan. This design and construction team took a faded gem of a building and made it sparkle. They also made the building durable, bed-bug resistant, earthquake safe, energy efficient, and watertight, at the same time meeting the high standards of the planning department, the fire department, the Department of Public Works, the Mayor's Office on Disability, the State Historic Preservation Office, the National Park Service, and our financial partners. Supporting our design and construction team were our fantastic legal counsel, Scott Barchet, I know you're here, please raise your hand, and our financial consultant, Kevin Knudsen, from Community Economics. We learned together how to comfortably we twist ourselves into a pretzel when the capital markets collapsed and we needed to rethink our entire approach to the project. And as for the capital markets crisis, thank you, American Recovery and Investment Act. The vision of the staff of the City of San Francisco and their financial support for building renovations, operating costs, and social services has been remarkable, truly remarkable. City staff worked across departments and took the opportunity of the Wise closing to provide supportive housing for the chronically homeless on a scale not previously undertaken in our city. And if that wasn't enough, they added the benefit of a health clinic for the homeless designed specifically for survivors of trauma. From the city, we have so many people to thank, but especially Joel, Lydia, Dan, and Georgia, Mo, Brian and Harriet, MOTD, Mark, Margot, Josh, and the entire team at UPH. Thank you all very much. We're here today, as others have said before me, because supportive housing works. And it works because housing is a form of healthcare. And long-term support is both more effective for people and less costly to society than emergency and Band-Aid efforts. Supportive housing is another way of calling affordable housing that is paired with social services, and it's designed to help people who face amongst the most complex of life's challenges. Uniquely for a city of our size, San Francisco has created its own local operating subsidy program to allow nonprofits like TENDLOIN the ability to offer supportive housing to our city's homeless. In choosing this beautiful building for a project of this scale, we're demonstrating to the people who live here that they are deserving of such grandeur. The team of staff at TEDC who moved this project forward are also a pretty amazing group, and I'm really grateful to them for showing me that I wasn't carrying this on my own for all these years. I want to thank the interdepartmental planning team, the ramp-up team, the lease-up team, property management and services staff who are now responsible for shepherding this building into the next 100 years, and especially Dana, Gwen, Rachel, Cheyenne, Liz, Sam, and Don. Thank you all so much. You're amazing. Finally, I want to make one more reflection. People living in this building, in this community, and in buildings like Cullen Community thrive on the support of our city, state, and federal governments. This year, the California Homes and Jobs Act has been introduced to the California legislature, and we just want to encourage everyone in this room to support the Housing and Jobs Act, because the lives of the people who live in this building and in our community depend on it. Thank you.
So I think of these big housing developments, and of course I believe this is the biggest affordable housing renovation ever undertaken by the city and county of San Francisco. I like to think of it, you know how at the end of new movies, the credits roll and they roll and they roll. So that's what it takes, hundreds of people, and everybody contributed, everybody played an important role. And we were all led by Mara Blitzer. Anybody who worked on the project knows how complicated it was and how difficult it was. And so the development community, the development team and the TDC staff have a gift to offer tomorrow. Photo op. So there are so many green elements to the building that a green plaque. So thank you. So this building, this project, what's happening here so exemplifies Brother Kelly. Many of you knew him. And before I introduce Rada Stern, a former board member, to share a few words about him, I want to direct your attention to the screen where we put together a small tribute.
I served on the board of TENDLOIN for many years, but we were also pals. I used to take him shopping, he loved to shop. The eyeglasses he was wearing in those pictures, I made my optometrist get him good glasses because I wanted him to look better all the time. We used to go out, eat at fancy restaurants and, yak and have fun, and I really miss that part about Kelly. Some of my favorite stories of Kelly are, and I don't know who here knew him really well or who didn't, but he used to collect pennies. Whenever he saw pennies on the ground, he would collect them. And he'd put them in a jar by his bed. He called them his pennies from heaven. And at the end of the year, he'd take that money and do something nice for somebody. And I was so taken by that. I thought it was so great. And now whenever I find pennies, I say, I love you, Kelly, because I know they're coming from him. So when you find a penny from heaven, you know that Kelly's watching this call. Kelly firmly believed that home matters. It was ingrained in him. It got him started with TENDLOIN. It got us from 0 buildings to 30 buildings. That's all right? 3,000 residents. When I came on the scene as a donor investor of TENDLOIN, they had 5 buildings. So I've watched this, and I think that the biggest honor that we could bestow on Kelly, besides naming this building after him, which is pretty amazing, is the fact that we're continuing to do what TENDLOIN does so well. The staff of TENDLOIN is amazing. I mean, who thought that we would be doing this today? That we would have such a huge responsibility in making such a difference in people's home lives. Home matters. It's so important. Kelly was very enthusiastic and contagious. So if you met him, Kelly was very enthusiastic and contagious. And so if you met him, you wanted to be around him. And since he was doing this, you wanted to do it with him. It made it fun working with the staff of TNDC. You should try it. It's great. You know, it's it became part of the fun. We were all doing good things. People wanted to get involved. That's how the donor base grew, because it was fun and we were doing good work. It was Kelly's calling to work with housing. He really believed that if you could stabilize the person, they would bloom and grow. And so that was the basis of everything that he did. And you know, his friendships were like that. They bloomed and grew. And everybody in this room is a tribute to that, and that's really especially incredibly wonderful. The day Kelly passed, and I didn't know that he had passed yet, we were traveling in another country, and I found a whole bunch of American pennies on the ground. And that night I got a telephone call about Kelly, and I realized he was telling me somehow, some way. And so pennies are very special, and it takes a lot of pennies to do something like this. So just remember, it starts with 1 penny to make something gorgeous like this for a lot of people. So we should all help however we can, and remember Kelly, and thank the staff of TNDC, because every single person in TNDC makes a difference, and we need to acknowledge them for that. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you.